From the rise of cost of living to the rising political temperature, accusations and counter-accusations on election. From the rise of cost of living to the political temperature, rising accusations and counter-accusation on election rigging and untold stories finding their way to the public. This is PLG, Politics, Leadership and Governance, where we take a look at all that is happening in the socio-economic and also political scenes. My name is Rida Chebet Karing, and I'm joined by Bushebi Jr., who is helping me make sense of all these pertinent issues. Welcome, Bushebi Jr.
Thank you very much, Rida Karing Chebet.
Yes, the cost of living is rising. We've seen Kenyans taking to the streets, demonstrating, others carrying banners saying no food, no elections. We've seen the bei ya unga, it may double or it has tripled. What can you say about all this?
First of all, I would say that it's true that the cost of living has really gone so high, almost over the roof, especially on unga and other basic commodities.
Yes.
And I mean, if you look at the products and services that are found in the chain of food, clothing and shelter and health, you would realize that those products, the prices of those products are really gone so high. And as much as we would say usually before elections, we usually experience this, but at the same time, it's been long. And we have had reasons. The government has said that COVID-19 imechangia, sometimes the Russia war. And we have to understand that Kenya is a free market. It's a capitalistic kind of business structure where supply and demand chain sometimes actually dictates on how prices are going to be set in the business arena. And the government only comes in to cushion. So we should be asking ourselves, who are the suppliers of the basic commodities? Because if suppliers hold the commodity, most definitely the scarcity will skyrocket the prices. And if you look at the both areas of whether those who are in government and those who are not in government, they are the business owners, they are the suppliers, Most of these businesses and commodities, their own companies and, industries, they're the industry owners, they're the ones who are supplying it. And so when they hold the supply, most definitely the price will go up. And unajua na siasa hawezi anikana, when it comes to that, they will say a few things like, hawezi enda deeper than that. Yes, so but at the end of the day, ni mwananchi wa kawaida ndiye anaumia. And the government should come in to cushion, cushion farmers, cushion mwananchi wa kawaida, provide subsidies and look for ways and means of lowering the cost of living. And again, as I always say, the cost of living, ever since I was born, has never gone down. Yes, inaenda ikipanda. So what the government should do is that it should be able to make sure that mwananchi akona pesa ya kutosha, anaweza afford that kind of lifestyle. Because if you go to New York, for example, you can pay a monthly rent of almost 100,000. But you see, you can afford it. Because when you can work 3 jobs, you can have 5 jobs, and so you have a 24-hour economy. So you are able to afford the rent of 100,000. But when you come to a society like Kenya, where you work for a day and you make only 200 shillings, and then the prices of things go up, then you see that becomes a problem. So the prices are rising, but the economy is not favoring the common mwananchi. I saw another cartoon where there were 3 cartoon of three people, but one was very short and was not growing. You could see the other 2 are growing, but the shorter one wasn't growing. And somebody was asking the smaller cartoon salary, why are you not growing like the rest? Okay, why are you not growing like the rest? So it actually gives us a picture of everything. Things, the prices of goods and services are going up, but the income is not.
Yeah, so Kenyans have gone to the street. They are now demonstrating, wanting the government to come in and save them from that the rise of cost of living. Do you think that the government will do something? We saw the other day Kenyans complained about the maize flour going high, and agriculture CS came out and said that serikali imejaribu sana, wameweka subsidy so reduce na shilingi mbili. Do you think that the government will do something to ensure that at least the cost of basic commodities is bearable to Kenyans?
Yes, the government can do something, but the much that the government can do is to kunja virago because another government is coming in. There's nothing much the government can do right now. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Jubilee governments, they have very few days in power, so this is absolutely almost nothing they can do. So this burden is going to the next government. The next government is going to inherit the economy as it is, so it's up to the next government to find ways and means. Trust you me, the prices of goods and services will go down after elections, because the next government has to find ways and means of reducing the cost of living. And that is why you see them launching manifestos and telling Kenyans we are going to lower the food prices. They are citing corruption. I saw, is it Mwaure, who was saying that we lose around 5 billion Kenyan shillings per day. 5 billion, that is billion per day. And you can imagine the amount of money. And he was quoting, if it's true, and of course we have corruption in Kenya. And
remember the other day, President said that they're losing 2 billion per day.
Yeah, so which means it's true, because maybe that's the figure that the president was told. But the reality, and that is in the public sector. You have no idea how much money is being lost in the private sector through corruption. So you don't know exactly how much money Kenya is losing every day. Money that will go into the system and build, create value for products and services, and actually uplift the lives of Kenyans. We don't know. Young people want jobs, and you can name and not finish the number of businesses that have been closed in the past 1 year or two. Okay? And most of those businesses belong to young people, guys who had started businesses, and everything just died. And people went into depression and stress, and it's crazy. It's crazy. But the burden is on the next government. That's why Kenyans should look at the manifestos of the leaders and the character of the leaders that they are going to elect in come August 9th. Because it determines whether you are going to survive or we are going to thrive. There's a difference between surviving and thriving. Thriving means you are able to, afford life. But surviving is you don't care. The little you have, you eat and wait for death. Okay? So Kenyans need to look at the manifestos. They need to look at the leaders that they are going to elect, that they are electing actually, and they determine the next course of action. It's not just the national government, even the county governments. Everyone is suffering, everyone is crying. MQ, when we talk of corruption, I believe the biggest problem in Kenya is corruption. The biggest problem in Kenya is not lack of resources. There are enough resources in Kenya. In fact, even human resource, we have a higher percentage of young people. There are so many. And they say 35-year-olds and below, there are so many. They formulate almost 3/4 of the population. And the problem is, this is a resource that is going to waste. Because what are we doing as a society to use this resource? China did it. They realized we have a huge population. We can turn this population into a resource, human resource, and we can actually build the nation. Do we have leaders who can think of ways and means of using the resources that we have? How can you have one person stuffing almost a trillion shillings in a bank account somewhere? that money is not circulating in the economy. That money is just kept somewhere. The person will keep that money until they die. They leave that money there. So what? Why were you, stuffing that kind of money somewhere in another country somewhere? Those are the questions Kenyans should be asking themselves.
Yeah.
Okay? We have billionaires. There are around 10 or 20 billionaires, almost trillionaires in Kenya. And there are very few. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is so big. Okay? So what are we going to do? And you see, this is historical. It is very historical. It's not something that we just woke up and, it happened. It is something that has been happening systematically for quite some time. So the burden is in the next pact of leaders that Kenyans are electing.
Yeah, and still we know that we have some few days to the general elections. Do you think that maybe this cost of living, because you see that Kenyans are bringing in the slogan, no food, no elections, do you think that this will lead to voter apathy? Because some Kenyans, I've heard Kenyans saying that hata napiga kura nini, after all hainisaidii.
That's the worst mistake you can ever do, that you don't vote because haikusaidii. Trust you me, hapo ndo shida yako inaanzia. By you not voting, you're actually voting.
Yes.
Okay?
True.
You saw what happened in 2017 when Raila Odinga said they're boycotting the elections.
Yeah.
And those of the Jubilee side, voted. What happened? The Electoral Commission had to announce the winner. And so you still ended up with Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Whether you like it or you don't like it, because of your not voting or participating in the elections, you are voting in the very people that you don't want to come into power. So the most important thing is that you exercise your right to vote. You cannot say that no food, no vote. In fact, you should change the slogan. We are voting because we want food.
Yes.
Okay? Go and vote because you want food. But if you say that no food, no voting, it is up to you. Okay?
Yes.
Because you'll end up with leaders that you do not want, and they will frustrate your life. And I don't think that is the best way to go. So this slogan of boycott of election or voting just because of the high cost of living, it won't work. Remember, voting, you are not forced to vote. It's your right, yes, but nobody's going to force you to vote. But again, if you don't vote, you are still voting. Yes. So make a wise decision.
Yeah, and now away from the cost of living, now let's shift to elections matters. We've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed a committee, transition committee, and let me just mention some of the leaders in that committee. We have Joseph Kinyua, we have Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, we have Karanja Kibicho, and Amadi, DG Kameru, PS Julius Korir, we have Kinuthia Mbugua, we have Solicitor General Ken Ogeto, just to mention a few. You've seen the names that I've just mentioned. What is your take? And just before I let you say something about that, let me just read some of the roles of transition committee to our viewers, because I know that some wanaona tu ni majina, but they're really not aware of what is their role. The Assumption of the Office of the President Act number 21 of 2012, it provides that for the procedure and ceremony for the assumption of office of the president-elect, and establishes and constitutes the Assumption of the Office of the President Committee. The committee is mandated under Section 6 to facilitate the handing over process by the outgoing president to the president-elect, the provision of the security detail and security briefings to the president-elect, among other key functions. What is your take on the team that President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed?
I know this list, when it came out on Wednesday, I was looking at the comments on, in fact, I went to your your page on social media, and I was looking at the comments on social media and how people are reacting, and the list, and they were citing quite a number of names. That is Interior CS Fred Matiang'i. And the moment you mention that, what comes into your mind is the war that has been between the CS and the deputy president. So I mean, the list actually elicits a lot of reactions and comments. You know, there's Kibicho. You've seen the war that deputy president has had with Kibicho. But one thing that, this is my opinion, when I look at, there's also Hilary Mutyambai, there's General Robert Kibochi, National Intelligence Service Director Philip Kameru, there's AG Kihara Kariuki, there is Solicitor General Ken Ogeto, there's PS Joe Okudo, there's the PS Maisha Kamau, and PS Jerome Ochieng, Kinuthia Mbugua, I think that, yes, Julius Korir, and I think most of the names will elicit some history of some form with the Kenya Kwanza Brigade. And but this is my opinion. This is a very constitutional mandate. It is not a political mandate. Okay. So just the same way the IEBC is not answerable to an individual or an institution, it is answerable to the Constitution. It is the same way that this team, the transition committee is answerable to the Constitution. So whoever, not the office of the president, so whoever the IEBC announces as the president, okay, this team is responsible to make sure that there's a peaceful transfer of power from the current regime to the new regime. Okay, that is by making sure wanajua bedroom kwa state house iko wapi na nini kutaendaje, and making sure that also the current president retires peacefully, and all those things, just making sure that hakuna kuchanganyikiwa, because that is the time when anything can take place. But politically, I'm sure politicians, being politicians, they will try to, you know, say a few things about the list. And I saw somebody saying ways ati hapo wameweka Korir, otherwise Korir only one, you know what they mean? Why do they only have one person from? But I would really urge Kenyans to understand the constitutional matters that are different from political matters. Some of these things are purely constitutional. It doesn't matter whose name appears on the list. Okay, as long as the IEBC announces that the winner is so and so, the rest should go to court if they have a problem. Okay, but there must be a peaceful transfer of power. So whoever the IEBC will announce as the president, then there must be a peaceful transfer of power. And this is a list of people who are mandated to make sure that happens. Okay, constitutionally, if they don't do it, then it becomes unconstitutional. Okay, so that's when that's the difference. It's not a political thing, it's a constitutional thing.
Yes.